Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Ask the Expert series. We are very excited to have Ericka Rolle here and Jade Wheeler from RBC to speak to us about banking and how rewarding a career within the banking industry is. So before we get started, a little bit about me and the background on Connect by Nova, who we are, why we're here. So my name is Hannah Jackson. I'm the co-founder and career services manager here at Connect by Nova. Connect by Nova is a new non-for-profit organization here in Cayman that is fully focused on providing the community with careers advice and work readiness resources. This can include hosting webinars like these. It can also include working one-on-one with individuals, whether that is on resume writing, interview prep, anything really when it comes to their own career action plan. So that's a little bit about Connect and who we are. Now I'm going to pass it over on to Ericka to introduce yourself and give us a breakdown of the banking industry.
Well, definitely. Good afternoon, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to be here and join you, Hannah. And I'm looking forward to this session. As you mentioned, my name is Ericka Rolle. I am the Area Vice President of Personal Banking and the Country Head for Cayman. But before I do move into a breakdown of the banking industry, Jade, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jade Wheeler. I'm 24 years old. I am a mobile mortgage specialist with RBC, and I've been with the business for 5 years. As a mobile mortgage specialist, I assist persons with obtaining their home or simply just preparing for that future financial goal that you're working towards.
Great. Thank you so much. And so, Hannah, you asked a really great question around giving a breakdown of the banking industry. And it's an interesting question because, one of the most popular industries in finance is the banking industry. The banking industry includes systems of financial institution called banks that provides valuable services like storing your funds, just simply putting, managing credit, as well as facilitating transactions. So in a nutshell, banks can help people store and use their money. The banking industry is also is really valuable to the economy as it provides resources for individuals, families, organizations, even governments for the use of transactions and investments. Now, there are basically 3 segments of banking per se. We have retail banking or personal banking, and I think that's the one that most of us are familiar with. It involves the deposit accounts like your savings and checking accounts. You have mortgages, loans, credit cards, debit cards, all the things that we know. And this is where I would have spent most of my banking career. There's also wholesale banking, where we have business banking, corporate banking, and investment banking. And then we have a form of wealth management where you have retail brokerage services and asset management. And, as one of the Caribbean's leading diversified financial services company, RBC provides the personal and commercial banking, the wealth management, the corporate banking. We even have insurances and trusts. And as I mentioned, the asset management services that we provide to a wide range of clients, individuals, small businesses, multinational corporations, and like I would have mentioned before, governments. And with more than 100 years of heritage in serving the region, RBC is positioned to give our customers access to an expanded network of international services and just a greater geographic reach. We also have a presence in 10 countries and territories across the Caribbean, the North, which includes Cayman Islands, Bahamas, and Turks and Caicos. We're also located in the South, where we have Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, and we have 5 branches also located in Dutch Caribbean, which is Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, Saba, and Saint Martin. And we also serve nearly 1 million clients across the Caribbean network, and our regional headquarters is actually based in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. So that's just a brief overview of some of the things, but I'm just so excited, Hannah, to get into our discussion this afternoon, because I just think it's going to add so much value to the participants on the line.
That's fantastic. And the fact that also RBC as a whole is in different areas, different jurisdictions, that also gives a bit of flexibility as well if somebody is in banking and maybe wants to move towards a different jurisdiction. Yes. their career path, right? They could start in Cayman, but then maybe go to a different part of the Dutch Caribbean, or could go to North America, right? It really gives different options. And that's something that happens a lot when you're working with a global firm or a global
Yes.
company. So just on that, moving on to kind of the breakdown, I kind of want to know a little bit more about you both and how you got started into the industry. So where did you start, Ericka?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with this one, and then we can go on to Jade. You know, my journey from novice to expert started over 29 years ago with another Canadian financial institution in the Bahamas. I went from being a part-time teller, or what we now call at RBC, a financial solution associate. And as you can see, that name has evolved over the past several decades to now the area vice president of personal banking and country head for Cayman. I knew very early on I was looking for stability, just a good working environment with reliable hours. Those things were important to me. I really wanted career development opportunities where I had the opportunity to choose from various different positions, and also a career field that had great benefits. The benefits was important to me, as well as competitive salaries. And I found that all within the banking industry, and more specifically with RBC. I have held a number of roles in the banking over the past several years. I still haven't gone through half of the positions available within the banking industry, or RBC for that matter, especially when I consider now even the Pan-Caribbean roles, which you just spoke about, that we offer at RBC. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I'll pause now and turn it over to Jade, who will share how she actually came into the field. So Jade, over to you.
Okay, hi. So similarly to Ericka, I would have started off as a teller. So having completed high school and going into college, I knew that I needed to start my career journey. And growing up in Cayman, we were taught that, the economy is heavily reliant on banking and tourism. And of the two, banking piqued my interest because I'm highly motivated by challenges and helping others. And what I did was I reached out to individuals in the field to gain some insight, and as well as to express my interests. I would also get the weekly papers to search for opportunities. And of the contacts that I made, someone actually reached out to me, and they advised me that there were opportunities at RBC. And I went onto their website, did a bit of review, and I applied for the post that I was interested in. And I was actually called for an interview, which was really exciting. And having gotten the opportunity to work for one of the leading Canadian banks, I made sure that I prepared for my interview by making a list of possible questions and just going over them to make sure that I felt comfortable and confident. And a very big point as well was that I made sure that I was dressed appropriately. I would ask my mother and my friends, does this look good? Because as what my mother would say, first impressions do last.
And that's so important that you note on that, because that first impression really makes that difference, right? There's a statistic that says within the first 90 seconds of an interview, the hiring manager knows whether or not they're going to move forward with you, right? So
Right.
that just is telling enough to say that, obviously dress for success, and really put yourself out there. I definitely resonate with what you said about checking the papers. I'm sure a lot of individuals on this call right now are currently, buying the compass, looking on LinkedIn, trying to see what positions are out there. A lot of times it might not be that something is advertised, but really reaching out to an industry professional, kind of like yourselves, and seeing, are there opportunities at RBC? Is there an opportunity for me to come in and gain work experience, internship experience, because you never know where that might lead, right? But
Absolutely.
yeah, and so seeing that you both have started as tellers and seeing where your careers have taken you, that's just knowing that where you start is not where you end up, and taking really that first step into the workforce or into that career can lead you into an industry that you might have not necessarily jumped into had you not taken that first step. So that's fantastic. I love to see careers grow and careers really like people soar within industries that they're passionate about, which is why we do connect. Were there any education qualifications that, you know, are required for somebody that is interested in the banking industry? I know there's so many different areas, Ericka, but if you could kind of lay it down in layman terms, what would be an idea of an educational path for someone who's interested in banking?
Right. RBC's most important asset, it's our people. And at RBC, you don't need to be afraid to bring the real you to work, your true self to work. Different backgrounds and experiences aren't just accepted, they're celebrated. Together, we really support one another and make sure that each of us succeed. We don't just encourage diverse perspective and backgrounds, we live it by fostering a culture of innovation that believes how we do business is just as important as the business that we do. And a diverse workplace is one that reflects the makeup of the community. It's an environment where you can bring your true self to work and thrive. And at RBC, we embrace diversity and inclusion for innovation and growth. And it's really a fundamental value because we know how valuable every unique perspective actually can be. And so, just a few details to help you get started. Applicants must have at least a secondary school education with the qualifications required for that particular job. Now, minimum entry level requirements include the passes of at least 5 subjects, the CXC exams from grades A, B, or C, and the subjects must include math or accounts and English. Now, in instances where a candidate doesn't have where a candidate may have a previous work experience but doesn't meet the requisite education qualifications for the role, exceptions, we will consider those. We also know that the transition from student to professional can be a challenge, and so we have looked at ways where we can help to get you started. We have partnered with the University College of the Cayman Islands over the last several years and have awarded 24 scholarships to eligible Caymanians. Also, in addition to that, sponsorships, we've agreed to hire 2 of the scholarship recipients, providing them with the opportunity to gain just that full hands-on biking experience. And we actually had one of those students start last week. And so I am just honestly really excited about this program and the endless opportunities that will come with it for those individuals who come in on the work experience here with us.
That's fantastic. I love how you are connecting with the community and offering those entry-level opportunities as well on top of scholarships. Obviously, scholarships is something that's very important for students who are looking to become young professionals because it helps them on the educational side, but then also offering to individuals the opportunity to gain full-time employment with RBC is just as important, so they get that hands-on experience. So you mentioned for entry-level positions, it is the high school diploma plus 5 CXC passes, which need to include maths and English.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Those 2 should be a part of the 5, and also the grades should be an A, a B, or C passing.
A, B, or C. So everyone on that call is making note of that. And when it comes to obviously different tracks on the educational side, that's the minimum. But as you continue to progress throughout your career, are there any other qualifications that you would suggest that individuals look at within the industry?
Right. I would say that, as I mentioned, we want you to pursue that degree. We want you to, the higher education. Of course, you mentioned compliance. That's a huge thing now. There's a lot of courses and things that you can take. So if you're going to come in and you want to look at specializing, we haven't even gotten to that yet. You want to specialize in compliance or marketing or something, I would say then taking additional courses in those fields that will definitely help with helping you to move along once you enter the banking field. The entry level is the entry level, but if you're coming in and you're looking to apply for a role that's sort of a specialty role, then of course we would want additional supporting educational pieces that will go along with it. So basically that's it. The high school diploma, the degrees, that definitely will help you get it more closer to the front of the line.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, compliance, when it comes to compliance, ACAMS certification is really the one to go for. Marketing, there's so
Everyone
many
asks for
there.
it.
Yeah, there's so many out there. I mean, our marketing person is currently doing an InDesign course online. So there's a lot of different areas that you could specialize in. But yeah, starting out with high school diploma, getting that degree, and then seeing what you want to move forward with. I mean, I'm sure the team is very supportive. It just sounds like from your culture and meeting a few members of the RBC team as well. I know that you are all very much of a family-oriented, supportive team, that if
Yes,
somebody
we
does want to
are.
pursue further education or specialization, I'm sure that the team would support them in that journey
Oh,
as well.
most definitely. I mean, without even going into too much, we have programs in place for our employees where we do pay help assist with education. It's an annual stipend that we provide for them. And there's also a number of, we have a learning platform where persons can go on and do self-learning courses. It's a lot of information within our RBC library where persons can actually build their skills just by working with us. And like I said, we also provide that support. So sometimes persons come in, they start in a role and it's something else that they want to do. With the support of their leader, their personal development plans, we sort of map out and build out how we help them get there. And it also includes assistance, educational assistance.
That's wonderful. And there are various opportunities, like we mentioned only just a few just now, but there are various opportunities that one can take within the banking industry, right? So would you be able to give me kind of a career track progression example of somebody at RBC?
Right. I think it'll be good to use our own, but I'm going to pass this one over to Jade first, because I think Jade's progression throughout the past several years is really a significant one. So Jade, why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. A banking career with RBC can provide you with a number of opportunities and the ability to progress. We have our retail banking, which is otherwise known as personal banking. This is the department where we have our tellers, these are the persons that'll process your withdrawals, your deposits, your transfers. There's the customer service representatives, and this is usually the person that you'll see at the front desk. There's currency service agent, the loan officers that will assist with any personal loans, educational loans, and you have the managers of each of these different groups here in the retail space. There's also business and corporate banking. These persons maintain the relationship with businesses and business clients. They have support officers to the business banking officer. There are also business banking electronic sales specialists, which I find is a really interesting role, especially because we're in a digital age. So this person will assist with getting persons signed up for online banking, whereas you don't need to come into the bank to do most of your transactions. They'll assist with getting e-platforms where you'll go online, onto a business and you can pay from there conveniently. There's also the private banking department, and this department maintains relationships with persons of high net worth with large cash balances. There are these support officers to the private banking officers. And the private banking officer is the primary point of contact for their customers. They're also the credit writers for the private banking officers that will assist with any credit needs that their clients will have. And just to give you a live example of myself, my banking career started in 2015. I began as a retail banking associate, otherwise known as a teller, and this role has transformed a lot. As Ericka would have said earlier, for her, it was named differently, and I'm sure some of her duties were a bit different as well. I've had the opportunity to provide coverage at the front desk, which is now a client assistant in the cash service department, where they deal with the bulk cash and foreign currencies such as USD, GBP, Euros, Canadian. I've spent some time in private banking as well, covering the private banking associate. And from being a teller and wanting to add more value to the business and expand my knowledge, I went on to being a mortgage support associate May of 2019, where I supported the mortgage specialists as well as the auto finance specialists with their administrative duties. And this gave me the foundation to transition into being a lender. And my lender journey started off with as an auto finance specialist, March of 2020, where I assisted clients with obtaining their new vehicle, and to currently being a mortgage specialist as of May 2021. And I really enjoy being a mortgage specialist. It makes me feel proud, and just being able to help persons to achieve one of their biggest financial goals. So banking is an extremely rewarding career, and my progression through the banking field required sacrifices, ownership of my development, meaning ensuring that I had a personal development plan, checking that regularly, as well as coaching and mentorship.
No, that's really great, Jade. And just to piggyback off of what Jade would have given us a good overview of the number of roles, the opportunities for development and career advancement within banking. It's honestly literally endless. And I've worked in a number of roles over the last 29 years. Some were for development reasons, which eventually led to promotions. Some were for learning and just discovery. As Jade mentioned, I've had the teller role, what we call FSA, head teller. I also worked as a teller supervisor, what we now call manager of financial solutions. I was also a branch manager of several branches. Some were small, where we had about 15 employees, some larger with 45. I did have a Pan-Caribbean role. It was very interesting. I had the oversight for the security and collateral management of the business, which also included Cayman at that time, and then became a district manager over several large branches in the Bahamas, and then specialized in an area as an area vice president with a Salesforce team. But one of the roles that really helped, I think, prepared me for the role that I'm in now was in 2019. I became the managing director of the mortgage arm of a business in the Bahamas we call Finco, where I further developed in the area of dealing with governments and the central bank and regulatory oversight, those pieces. And because the company was a public traded company, I had exposure to the AGM meetings and preparing for those. And so just really, as you can tell, just a number of positions and just exposure, that has been endless. My advice, at this time, if you're looking, for the various opportunities as you move along, is really just to find your passion. What gets you up in the morning. You can't come in every day and do this for decades and not love it. What puts a smile on your face. Choose your path, and hopefully, based on what you're passionate about, you'll be able to work and build in that skill that you need to be successful in the role that you would have chosen. Jade would have mentioned the personal development plan. That is so important, setting timelines as to when you want to do things. I also heard her mention mentors. That's important, the mentors and the sponsors, really to learn from and to help you get there. What I do want to also mention is the number of roles and career opportunities within RBC. So of course, Jade would have shared a few, but I also want to mention the group risk management rules that we call GRM. That's the group that has oversight for our credit adjudication process. We have compliance, an area there. We have finance, if you want to specialize, marketing. There's also roles, strategy and analyst roles. All of this is within banking. And then, as we mentioned, there are those opportunities that you can actually, work outside your country, and sometimes without even leaving your home. You can have a Pan-Caribbean role. And so that's so important. So, at RBC, we're a proud Canadian financial institution operating globally. And Hannah, you would have mentioned that opens doors to so many possibilities, and it really allows us to deliver a leading performance and really create value for our clients and our communities.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I mean, you mentioned so many different positions just now with marketing. There's also HR. I mean, we all have an IT team.
How
right?
could I possibly even forgotten HR?
Right, HR, which are the ones who hire, right? Who help with the hiring and all the internal employee relations. So there is so much when it comes to a company and a business. You might be thinking banking, but there's so many different departments underneath that you can find a position in. And if, you are in a current role that, might not spark your joy, or right, Marie Kondo, spark joy to you, then you could also move into another department. And then, kind of how Jade found your stride within being a mortgage specialist and really being that person that when a young Caymanian buys their first home or buys their first piece of land, that is so special, right? Being a part of that journey for somebody. So you're right, finding your passion, really finding the path that leads to you, making that professional development or that career action plan, sticking to those SMART goals of, this is what I'm going to be working on between the next 3 to 6 months. And then this is the next qualification I want to go towards. Making a plan for yourself so that you can continue to grow as a professional really is so important. And so now, specific to Cayman, we've covered quite a bit of the roles within RBC and the banking industry as a whole. Specific to Cayman, what does the market look like for somebody interested in banking?
So I want to start, the opportunities that are, there's so much at RBC. And while I want to, I'll get to looking directly at Cayman, but I also want to speak because we are a global bank and an institution where we look at delivering leading performance, and our successes comes from the 89,000 plus employees who leverage their imaginations and their insight to really bring our vision, our values to life. As Canada's biggest bank and one of the largest in the world based on market capitalization, we have a diversified business model with a focus on innovation and really just providing that exceptional experiences to our 17 million clients in Canada, the US, and 27 other countries. So there's opportunity here in Cayman, but then there's opportunity once you get into RBC that go beyond our country. And as for Cayman, RBC has had a deep and meaningful presence here since 1964. And this year marks 58 years of RBC's commitment and dedication to the Cayman Island community. Our commitments to the people of the Cayman Island is a key priority for us, and one we bring to life through the numerous and ongoing community service endeavors, including the meaningful and impactful programs for our youth, like the UCCI scholarships. And how we do business is as important as what we do. And our successes is definitely defined by the long-term well-being of the people that we serve and in the places in which we operate. And so RBC has an industrious and enduring commitment to the successes of Caymanians and the overall prosperity of Caribbean people. And one of the things is that we are constantly looking for persons to fill positions and roles right from within the community which we serve. We actually will be putting an ad in the paper, I think just this Friday, with a few jobs that we have open, but it's always our very first preference to hire a Caymanian first. That's important to us. And so at RBC, our purpose is what we live and act on every day, and it's really helping clients thrive and our communities to prosper.
And I do know that RBC is very much of, like I mentioned earlier, a community centric, right? So I see RBC out doing 5K walks. I see you doing all of the different community involvement and being a part of lots of non-for-profits. I mean, you partner with Connect by Nova. Thank you so much. So that we're able to do things like this for the community and go out and do work readiness. So RBC really, I mean, you've been in operations for 58 years is what you said, and you can really tell how important of a company it is within the community and has built so many careers for Caymanians. So thank you so much for being a part of growing our Cayman community and really helping young Caymanians get their careers started and building their careers. So I want to hear your recommendations for someone interested in banking. So I don't know who wants to start off, but
I think I love hearing Jade's because it's so refreshing, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'll be happy to piggyback off of her. But Jade, why don't you kick us off?
Sure, absolutely. Banking career can, can be very rewarding. And my recommendations to anyone that's interested in the fields are to, first start by deciding, what sector are you interested in, or what role you think that you may be interested in, and then going on to doing your research. You can ask persons that are currently in the field, or you can do some internet search as well. Surround yourself with persons that are able to support your growth and that are understanding of your personal goals, and that it'll require some sacrifices, whether it is professionally or personally. And having a mentor, whether it's informal or formal, there may be someone that you admire their work ethic and how they've progressed. You can ask them to mentor you, or you can just watch and be vigilant and see some of the things that they do and incorporate it into your own routines. And very important is to create a personal development plan. This will help you to succeed presently and in the future. It should include something that will help you to continue to grow, and keeping track of your progress and revisiting your personal development plan regular, whether it's monthly, quarterly, depending on what that goal looks like and when you're trying to achieve it by. Um, Again, being open to feedback and constructive criticism. Feedback is a gift, and sometimes you should ask for it. And if something is said to you and you may not necessarily like what was said, really sitting and thinking about it, and seeing, what can I learn from this, or where could I have possibly went wrong, or how can I grow from this, and seeking out opportunities and not waiting for them. And this is something that I've done as well. Speaking to my manager about cross training, or even using my own personal time to go to someone else and say, hey, can you teach me a few things? So it's really about owning your career journey and your development.
Yeah, that's well said, Jade. I don't even know how to come behind that. I think I love what you just said. It's about owning your career journey, and that is so important. I would just say, also determine what you're passionate about. What do you have an aptitude for? What are you good at? If you like working with people, then maybe a client facing role may be best for you. So that's your teller, your lenders, our sales and service professional roles. Maybe you prefer working independently with minimal customer contact, then a functional or operational role may be a better option. Maybe you like to create, or perhaps you're a budding communicator or marketer. That could be important. Maybe you enjoy solving problems, or maybe your ingenuity can help us solve client issues and help create those better client experiences for us. I would say just decide as you come in, maybe you want to specialize in a role. We mentioned the finance role, the marketing roles, we have insurances, or maybe it's just general banking. So I think thinking about it in that way, will help you to narrow your focus. I think another thing is important are your skills, attention to detail. That's important. Listening skills, oral and written communications, those are important. Our roles at RBC aren't just about traditional banking. They're also about just being creative. We promote that imaginative, and we encourage our employees to be bold and speak up and share their ideas that can create an impact, around the world. And I would say, I heard Jade mention it around the mentoring, connect with individuals who have established in the banking industry. Talk to them, ask them about what they enjoy about what they're doing and what they find challenging, maybe in their current roles. And, just establishing that mentor relationship, and set goals with your mentor based on what you want to accomplish. And then maybe just finally, you have choices of what bank setting you may want to work in. Some persons start out in retail banking and they move to wealth management or investment, or they move more to commercial, or it may just be a credit union. So, you have preference, choose the one that best suits your preference. And I think definitely those are some good starting points that you can take and hopefully move forward with.
Those are so many great points. I don't even know where to start. It was own your career, make a professional development plan, mentoring, everything that was just discussed is exactly what I preach every single
And I
day.
think, and I think one other thing, with the development plan as you go along, sometimes what I say to employees and I even to myself, with your personal, as I have one, I have a personal development plan, even though, there's been years of doing this, because there's always something else to do. You should always have a development plan that covers what you're doing in your current role. Okay, because there's still skills that you want to build and sharpen and tweak as you go along. And then of course it should be one that's for the future role that you're building out to the North Star. So they're both working together at the same time, almost simultaneously. As you work on the current stuff, you're also building out to the future. So that's just another little tip that I always say to my employees and even to myself as I go along, because I think Jade said it. You should always be preparing for the next role as you go along. Even while you're a student and in school, you should be getting ready for that.
And that's something as well that goes along with like even keeping your resume up to date in your current role. Because a lot of times when we're currently in our role and we love what we do and we're not thinking of that next step because we're enjoying the now.
Yes.
There might also be an opportunity to grow within the company that you need to apply for, right? Or you need to do an internal application, or even externally if you find another bank that's fantastic and you see an opportunity you can't lose out on, right? So even making sure that you write down everything that you do day to day, because a lot of times, yes, there's a job description, but there are a lot of other projects that we're interested in getting our hands on, or learning experience, kind of what Jade mentioned, going to your manager and saying, what else can I help with? Taking that self-initiative, right? Learning those different skills, like the different skill set. Ericka, you mentioned a couple of soft skills, attention to detail, listening skills, someone who's self-motivated, right? All of those are so important in the long run as well, just as important as those technical skills and getting that degree. If you're a people person, if you're a communicator, thinking about those different things of where you would fit best and where you would really thrive in that role. So there's a lot in there that I think individuals or participants on this call can really take away from the session and saying, oh, I think I'm going to put together a personal development plan. So just quickly touching a bit more on that, for someone who doesn't know what a personal development plan, would you be able to dive in a little deeper on how to get started with that? Or what can they do? What are the questions to ask yourself?
Right. So you would want to start out, like I said, maybe about the current role. I think it's always good to look at it, if you're starting off as a student. I think the audience, basically in university who may be on the call, you want to start thinking about what's next. What do I need to build on? What I've found with interviews, sometimes it's getting in the door, right? So the person may be really smart, but they struggle with trying to communicate that or get that across to the person who's interviewing them. And so maybe you need to work on building your communication skill. And so I say test yourself. I can tell you, when I moved from being a teller and started to progress to the bank, I had to go on. I don't think I could remember having YouTube, but there's so many different tips that you could just go on YouTube and watch and observe. Even if you Google the type of questions, a lot of the questions now that persons ask are more behavioral questions, the what if questions. What if this happened? Or what if you're faced with this type of challenge? How would you react? And so it's not necessarily to test your knowledge. We've already have your CV. We can see that you're more than qualified. We want to get to know you, the person, your background. And so I find that could become part of some person's development, personal development. Maybe they want to build their communication skills. So they want to maybe look at a couple of videos, test themselves, maybe even sit with their lecturer and have them test them. Or I don't know if that's even something within the university program that they allow. So that's one part of it. And then of course, like you said, if you know that you want to specialize, like let's say if they want to go into compliance, then you know that separate and apart from a degree, you want to be applying or taking a course, so that as you go in, maybe you don't want to do an entry level, you want to sort of come in as a junior person in compliance. So you want to sort of send in that, okay, I have the qualifications for entry level, but I also have done an additional course to support the role that I really want to end up in at the end of the day. So it's building out as you go along. But like I said, more focusing if you're working or you're already employed, is looking at the skill where you're at and how you can build on that, and then trying to figure out what else can I put in place. So it's asking yourself those kind of questions. What do I need to develop on to make me the best person for the role? Because I can tell you, when we post positions, sometimes we get up to 10, 15 applicants. So what's going to cost your CV, first of all, to stand out? Like you said, you need to have an updated one. And I like to do with COVID, it hasn't allowed us to do a lot of face-to-face, but we've done virtual. And I think Jade said it, how do you present yourself? How are you going to communicate? And don't be afraid to speak up about the talents and everything that you possess. Okay, I think sometimes, and I don't want to get into the female male thing, but sometimes we tend to play down our talents or our skills. And sometimes when you go into, it's not about being, so assertive, but I think you just need to be able to say to ensure that you get across a little bit more than what's on the CV. Like I said, we have the CV. That interview is to get to know you, the person, and being well prepared for that is really going to be important. And sometimes what actually allows you to stand out from the other candidates who would have applied.
That's so important you say that, because you're right. The CV is that piece of paper, right? And it's really just kind of an outline of your skills, your experience, your education. But really, when you get to know the person, is that interview setting or in that cover letter, right? So really putting a bit of your personality, being prepared. I like to tell people when they're getting ready for their interview to put together a brag sheet. Not something that you'll actually hand the interviewer, but something that you're proud of your accomplishments, because you've done all these things throughout your life and throughout your career that you should be able to share, right? And be proud of them. And that's really where that interview comes in, right? To talk about yourself. Yes. And why you would be the best candidate for the role. And like you said, in that personal development plan, making sure that if you are in that current position, making sure that you're efficient as possible. If there's maybe systems in place, how can you make them more efficient, right? How can you find something that is not working as great as it could be, and then seeing what can we do differently, right? We're in the 21st century, we're in like a digital age, everything is changing left and right. There's a lot of new technologies that were in place. I mean, virtual interviews is one. We're now all using Teams and Zoom. And so just post-COVID, there's a lot that has changed. Another soft skill that everyone's looking for, some adaptability and flexibility, really people who can roll with the punches, come in and, be able to adapt to change, right? Because I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? No one anticipated COVID. So really,
you're so right about that. The soft skills. I always say to persons, a lot during COVID, we started to talk a lot about EQ. IQ is important, but EQ is also important as well, being self-aware and understanding how do you interact and how do you engage and all those different pieces. And so I've definitely, you're going down the right path with that. As we look to hire, even within HR, we're looking differently. We're looking differently at the persons. And RBC, as you mentioned before, we're a family. It's about togetherness. It's about bringing, being diverse and inclusive as we move along, and just persons being able to come to work and feel very comfortable about what they do. We encourage a speak up culture. I'm sure Jade can share that with you, that we want to hear your ideas. There's no idea that's far-fetched. We want you to think about those bold and different ways of, just because we've been doing it like this for years doesn't mean that we can't do it better or differently. So that's the type of environment that like I said, for me, that has kept me here. And I just enjoy it. And it's just been a pleasure to sit here this afternoon and really share this with the persons on the line. That banking is a little bit more, we're not just a group of bored individuals. We come in here and we check paper. It's more than just a career. It's about family and being comfortable and passionate and happy. And like I said, you wake up every morning, you have to find something that you enjoy doing. That's so important, Hannah, so important.
Eric, I wanted to touch on the point of the development plan and give a live example. So for myself, I quickly recognized that public speaking was an area that, I needed to develop on. And that was one of the first things that I included on my development plan. Something as simple as being on this call here with all of you today would have scared me when I started out. And, what I did was I identified that that was a challenge for me, and I would have challenged myself to put myself in the position where I would have to speak to persons more often, and that helped me to develop. And I would also host meetings in my sales role, and then I would ask for feedback after each meeting from my manager to say, hey, how did I do on the meeting? Were there any areas of opportunities? What went well? Things like that. That was a live example for myself, and it's something
That's
that I'm really proud of right
yeah,
now.
Jade. That is awesome, and thank you so much for speaking up and sharing that, because those are the things, Hannah, that you look for. It's not just about the courses and other things. It's about what do you want to develop in to make you better at what you're doing or prepare you, like I said, for the future role. And Jade knew very early on as a mortgage support associate supporting the specialist that she one day wanted to sit in that role, and the role that she sits in now, she has to speak a lot. She has to go out and give presentations and, you know, all of that stuff. So imagine someone who is basically terrified of doing that, but that's the role you want to go in. So how are you going to prepare yourself for that position? And Jade, I think that's a great example. And thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah, identifying those areas of improvement and really recognizing that, no, this is my end goal and these are the different skills that it takes that I need to
Mhm.
work on myself
Yes.
and to get to that end position, whether that is, a role or whether that's further education, whatever that might be, right? And public speaking, I can tell you, is not for everyone, right? There's a lot of individuals who much rather be in back office roles, but doing all the admin side, which we all,
And that's
and that is fine, right? Like
mhm.
public speaking is not for everyone. And Jade, I mean, kudos to you for actually working on that, because you knew you wanted to become a mortgage specialist, right? And that's a huge hurdle that not many people are willing to overcome. So really, kudos to you on that. Have been in HR, an example. I've been in HR. I started out as an intern, then was an apprentice, and then consultant, now to running to Connect, right? I mean, just in recruitment, we do speak to a lot of people. It is naturally in HR, especially, we're just people centric. We just love people, talking to people, whether it is about their day,
Mhm.
whether it's about what role they want to go into, right? So naturally, public speaking had to be one of those skills that I had to work on, right? So now doing all of these trainings, the more you put yourself out there, the better you're gonna get at those skills, right? So putting in those
Definitely.
meetings in your calendar, maybe sitting in on a meeting with, your manager, whatever that skill might be, find ways in your day to day that you can improve, right? And
Yes.
slowly but surely, I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, but slowly you will get better at those. And then that could be something that you could add towards, EQ and like talk about in your interview setting. So before we close out, I know we're coming almost to the end. I'm
I
gonna
can't believe
just,
it.
yeah, I know, right? I could sit and talk to you both all day here. But I'm going to open up the floor to anyone who has questions. So feel free to ask them in the chat box, in the Q&A. We would love to hear from you, even if it's, a personalized question about you and your career and what you want to ask. Ericka and Jade would be happy to answer. I know they're so passionate about the banking industry. I can't even believe 40 minutes has passed already. But I'm going to ask a question. So how can someone get involved in learning more? Where can
Yeah.
they go?
So I would say you can definitely check out our website, which is jobs.rbc.com/. This is really a great way to learn about what jobs are currently available. You can select a Cayman in the country category and actually go from there. And I would say consider interning, right? That's just simple enough. An internship will definitely give you the opportunity to experience really firsthand what it would be like working in the banking industry and really allow you to choose what banking career you possibly want to pursue. Even if it's only for a few months, you will be able to get that exposure and really make some good connections, which I feel will support you when you're ready to make that final decision on the career path that you want to move forward with. And as my career and Jade's career has definitely demonstrated, you can have many roles very early on your banking career as you decide to move forward. But the check out our website. Like I said, there's a number of roles available. And remember, we're a global company. It's not just going to be Cayman, it'll be across the Caribbean. We're located in Canada, the US, and 27 other countries. So check out our website. And then, of course, the internship. I think that definitely puts you very up close and personal to it. And you can say, you know what, this is for me. Well, maybe it's not for me. And then you go from there.
Just a question here. For the internships, when do your internships open? Or when is internship?
So right now we are only interning with UCCI based on the scholarship programs that we are providing. So like I said earlier, we provide two spots. Right now we have one filled. And so we're definitely looking forward to filling that other one. So I don't know if any students are on the call. But it doesn't just have to be within our business. I'm sure there are other companies out there that have internships, but we right now we're carrying two openings, and one of those have already been filled.
Yeah, I can also touch on that question as well. So companies usually open up their internship applications beginning of the year. Sometimes they start in January, and then deadlines are between March and April. And then internships actually go throughout the summer, mostly because a lot of students are in school during the year, and then the summer months they're out of school. So, might as well gain some valuable experience when you're off school. And internships are the perfect way to figure out whether that industry or that position is really for you, right? Because you could one day do an internship, within the marketing team, and then another time do it within the accounts team, right? So really internships are that perfect place to kind of dip your toes into different areas, see if it's the right area for you. If it is, fantastic, go from there. If it isn't, you could always do an internship in another area that you might be able to find your light in. So definitely keep an eye out for all the students that are on here for internships during the beginning of the year. There are actually some still looking for interns now. So
Hannah, just to put in there, are the individuals who come into us, we understand that they're students in school, and so we work around the schedule. Like the individual we just onboarded, they're only working 3 days out of the week from 9 to 1 because of their class schedule. So they have some more classes in the afternoon. And so, we're very, very much so flexible and open to working along with our students, because we do understand, of course, they're doing this while they're attending university.
And that's so important that a company is flexible with a student's course schedule, right? Because a lot of times students might think, oh no, I can't apply to that because it's the regular 9 to 5. But really put yourself out there, make that application, because you never know. Nowadays, I can tell you many companies are much more flexible than you think. We have definitely a lot of companies turned a page post-COVID, because we all had to go into lockdown. Don't want to think about that again, but we've all turned a page, and there's a lot more flexibility and a lot more of an understanding in terms of culture, and really helping individuals, whether in their personal life or in their professional life as well. So really put yourself out there, kind of take that step. The three of us are really examples of, kind of just going for it and really building a career from, that very first position. Thank you so much. I'm going to just double check here that we don't have any other questions. But if there are questions after this session, please feel free to email me. I'd be happy to reach out to Ericka and Jade and get their feedback on it. But thank you so much, both of you, for spending a bit of your afternoon with us. We're so grateful that you were able to share some of your knowledge and your expertise on the industry. I'm sure we're definitely going to get you guys back to chat more. But for anyone who's interested in more sessions like these, or learning more about interview prep or trainings, we do free online weekly trainings at Connect that are over Zoom. So everyone is more than open to join in on those. There's our email address there, connect@nova.ky, or feel free to give us a call at 623-1041. But are there any other closing remarks that you'd like to share?
I'll let Jade start. Jade, anything that you want to share before we end?
No, well, I just want to thank everyone for joining, and taking the time out to learn more about the banking industry and getting some information, because that really is a part of making that initial step, listening in from the persons that are in the field and seeing this is something that I, would possibly be interested in. So that is a good step there. And I'm sure Eric and I would be happy, to answer any questions that either of you would have in terms of banking, and that's more specific to you. We are very much, excited and keen on developing young Caymanians, especially in the banking industry, along their journey.
Definitely, and I'll just be very brief. Thank you so much for that, Jade. And as you said, just thank you all for calling in today and joining us. But just remember, choose maybe what you're passionate about. Choose that path that where you really want to end up at the end of the day. And Jade, you said something, and I think I'm going to take that with me. Own your career path and your development. You have to own it. It's really up to you. And so those are the final parting words. And Hannah, you've been a gracious host. Thank you so much for the invite. And we definitely look forward to returning, maybe for another exciting segment.
Yes, thank you so much, both of you. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the afternoon. All right, take care.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.